What's going on, guys? It's me, Daniel from Tech Tuning, and today I'm excited to do the first non-Celica related video. With the theme of the channel, it is a Toyota. This is a 2006 Toyota Tundra SR5, and as you can see, it's the four-door. I think they call it the extended cab. And today's a pretty easy video. I'm going to be replacing the speakers on the back doors of the car or the truck, and I've already done the fronts, so I'm pretty familiar with the process. I didn't make a video on the fronts because I didn't know how to do it before, but it's more or less the same as the rear. So today I'm just going to cover the rears and we'll get into that. I have some kicker speakers. These are from Crutchfield and they're exactly the size for the rears, and it also came with the adapter brackets, the wiring harness and all that. So today I'm planning on walking you guys through taking off the door panel. Once the panel is off, we'll talk about putting the speaker in, which is super straightforward, and then just putting the panel back on, which is just going to be the opposite of how we took it off. So it should be pretty quick, another easy video, and I hope you guys learned something from it. Maybe it helps you do the same on your truck and even on the front doors too. So let's get into it. So this process is really easy. To start, you're going to want to obviously open the door, and what we're going to do first is we're going to go through and remove the fasteners that are holding it to the door. I believe we have two clips on the side here which are like push styles, and then there's a couple concealed bolts that we have to pop out, and you'll also have to pop out this, but everything is really easy. You don't need any special tools. You just want to be a little cautious because some of it is plastic and you could scratch it if you go at it a little too roughly with a screwdriver of some sort. So what we'll walk through first is going to be these two clips on the side. As you can see, they're just little button style clips, and there's only one on the top and one on the bottom. Now to take these off is pretty easy. All you need to take these off is just going to be something to pop the clip inward, and then the outer ring of it will pop out. So what I have is just an old-fashioned center punch, and it just has a little pointy tip that we can take and pop it in, and you'll hear the click. And then once you do that, if you can just get your fingernail under it, they'll just slide right out of the door panel. And with all the fasteners that we're taking out, just make sure you put them somewhere safe so that you don't lose them, because they're really crucial to making sure that the panel fits correctly and goes back to its original place. So just make sure you keep track of everything that we're taking out. The next thing that we're going to move on to is, if you look in the door handle right here, you'll see that there's a little cover inside of the little indentation for that. You're going to want to take a flathead, or if you can get it with your fingernail, just something to pop that open. And it's just held in by like a little swinging piece of plastic, so it'll just pop open, it won't come out. And then there's going to be a Phillips screw behind that you're going to have to take out. Once that's out, the next thing that's going to be easy to grab is going to be this little switch piece right here. These are super easy. Just really carefully with either your fingernails or a tool, just pry up on it a little bit, because they're just held in by clips. And when you take that out, you want to disconnect this harness, and then you just kind of want to tuck the wire behind so it doesn't get caught on anything, and you can set that aside. Right here under the armrest, you'll see there's another thing that's like a cover. You just want to put your fingernail under there, and that clip is going to come right out. And if you take a look into there, it's just going to be another big Phillips head. But this one's a pretty long screw, so you want to make sure you have a long screwdriver, and preferably something with a magnetic tip might help, because it's gonna fall once you get it fully undone. And if you're like me, you just dropped it straight into the door panel, so we're gonna have to fish that out later on. And once you get that, the next thing that you're gonna want to do is kind of the tricky part. We have to take this trim out of the door handle. So the way to doing this is a little bit difficult, but it's pretty easy to explain. You're going to want to take a flathead and sort of get it in between the piece of the trim and the lock, and you want to pry up, and there's going to be a little clip. You'll feel it'll come loose, and then you want to do the same thing underneath and just pry away. Then you want to open the handle, and you'll see that this will just slide right out. So just be really careful, because these are easy to break, and you don't want to force this black piece that's behind the door handle, because it's also plastic and it'll crack and break really easy. Believe me, because I did it on the front door and I had to super glue it all back together. So we can set that piece aside now as well. And The next couple steps to this are incredibly easy. So that is it for all the fasteners. The next thing to do is just gonna be to start prying away at the door panel itself, and then we can start to pop the clips. These clips are just held into the door by like a slip fit, and they're just push clips that go into the actual metal of the door. So what I like to use to get this started is either one of these pop clip pry tools, but if you don't have one of these, a flathead works good too. I suggest wrapping it with some electrical tape so that you don't scratch your paint or the plastic. And what I would then also recommend is trying to find like a loose opening to start prying from, because it'll make it easier once you get one spot to just start popping around the ridge and get the rest of them. And I also found it's easier to start towards the bottom because it's hard plastic, so you just want to start doing that. And there comes the screw that I dropped earlier. Once you got them all off and it's free, you want to slide it up a little bit, and then there's going to be another wiring harness clip right beneath where it connects to the floor lamp. You just want to disconnect that, and then that's going to turn off, and you can put the door to the side. This is a great example of something you want to look out for. As you can see, this little pink tab is one of the clips that holds the door panel in. Sometimes they get stuck and they stick to the door and they don't come out with the panel. You definitely want to make sure that you take these out and you put them back into the door panel before you put it back on. Otherwise they won't clip back in and your door panel won't sit flush with the frame of your door, and that could cause problems later on. So definitely make sure you take these out, put them back into the door panel. From here, the next couple steps are once again super easy. All we want to do is disconnect our speaker from the wiring harness right here. And it's just a little push clip and it'll slide right out. And then we have 3 10mm bolts that are holding the bracket to the door. Once you take those out, the whole thing will come off. And as you can see, our speakers back here are super cracked. They were in desperate need of replacement, so it's a great time for us to be doing this. So let's take this out. Super easy. Now all we have to do is just kind of get your hands behind the speaker and just sort of pry away, because it's going to feel like it's sort of sealed to the door. And once that comes off, you're good. If you bought everything from Crutchfield and you got the mounting hardware, the brackets and all that with it, you can just throw this whole thing out unless you need to keep it for some reason, because it'll come with all these new brackets which you can put onto the door instead. So now let's start diving into the new kicker speakers we got and the accompanying brackets and the wiring harnesses that came with it. All this stuff is going to be pretty plug and play, so no need to worry. As you can see, the speakers that go into this truck are 6.5-inch, 160mm coaxial speakers. And what's really important is if you're picking them out yourself, you need to make sure that the depth of the speaker is thin enough that it'll clear the door window when it comes down. Luckily, Crutchfield is usually pretty good and they have sizes for that already pre-selected. So here we have our new speakers. We're just going to take one out. And we're not going to be needing this mesh trim, so we can set that aside. And what's really nice about these are coaxials, so we'll definitely get a better sound out of the car with these. So once you have one out, it's really good practice to take it and just kind of eyeball it up with the old speaker, make sure it's the right size, and these look to be about the exact same. So now we can set this one off, and we will open the bracket. Put that to the side, and these come with hardware which you will want to use. You need this to put the speaker into the bracket, and ideally we want the speaker to fit in a forward facing manner. It's like in this position we're going to get the most amount of screws in. So now what we're going to want to do is open up our package and just take a note of how many screws it comes with so you can put the right amount into each one. So it looks like ours came with 6, so we're going to put 3 into each speaker. Pretty snug. We're just gonna check from the back and everything looks all right. The next thing that we do is we take our included wiring harnesses and you want to pull one out. And these are the exact clip that we took off. So you just need to match the positive and negative to the speaker. And what's really nice about these is they come pre-crimped and the sizes you can't mess up. The negative will be a smaller connector than the positive. And the same is what comes on the terminals on the speaker. So you just have to plug those ones in. I take that back. What you want to do first is you want to run the speaker wires through the little hole so that the connector that goes into our car's harness is going outward through that. So when our new assembly is all finished, it should look something like this. You have your wires going out through the space and the speaker is bolted in. And now we can get back to putting this into the car panel. So coming back to the door panel, this is where it's important to make sure you hang on to the original screws that held the original speaker into the door. You're gonna need to reuse them here. So you'll wanna take a second to kind of eyeball what way these brackets are going to fit into the car, because they might not be 100% the same all the way around. So it's important to just take a second and get an idea of which way they're gonna go. So it would seem that ours are gonna go a little something like this. Once these three are in, you want to get them snug, but just not over tightened because you don't want to crack this plastic bracket. After that, all you have to do is plug in your new clip. And if you want to go the extra mile, I would suggest zip tying some of these wires together so that they're not just loose and flopping around in here, creating new noises and rattles in your car. So we're looking good. You've gotten through the most of it, which is just getting the speaker in. And once you take off the door panel, it's really straightforward. So we now have the new kicker speakers in, and if you wanted to, now is a good time to test it just to make sure it's all right. Maybe you didn't buy the Metro wiring harnesses that are just plug and play and you had to do a little bit of stuff yourself, or maybe you went out of your way and added some tweeters or something like that. So now is a great time to test it while the panel's still off and you can make corrections. I'm just doing plug and play. I know it's gonna work, so I'm gonna get back into putting the panel back on. And first things first, when you're doing that, you're gonna wanna replace those purple clips that might have popped out. You want to put those back into the door panel and make sure that those are secure before you put it back onto the car. So let's do that now, and then we can worry about putting the panel back on and some of the other fasteners that we took out. So these are super easy. As you can see, I've got it zoomed in right here on one of the ones that popped out. As you can see, it's a little bit of a C shape. So all we're gonna do is we're gonna come down to that, and you take your little clip with the circular end and you just have to slip that into place so that the pop clip point is facing outward to go back into the door. We'll do the remaining two and then we'll start putting the panel back on. Here we are with the door panel, getting ready to put it back on. Two things you want to make sure you do first, or actually three things I should say. You want this wire that goes into the window switch to be easily accessible. You don't want it laying down here where you can't grab it once the panel's back on. You also want to make sure you plug in this door floor light before you put the panel back on. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that that's connected. Now that that's on, I'm not sure if you can see it, but you can see that the floor light is back on again. And when you're putting this panel back onto the car, you want to make sure that you slip it over the windowsill and you feel it seat itself in there first. So just like that, I can feel it's sliding back on. I can see that the window seam is pressed up against the glass again, and it'll fall into line on all the grooves of the door, and that's how you'll know that this is in correctly. If you just start smacking these clips into place, your door is not going to be seated. You could wind up with water leaks and other issues. It's just not going to fit right. It might not close. So you want to make sure that this is slipped into place correctly. And now we're going to retrieve that wire that we tucked up, and we're just going to pull that out of the door for now. And now that this is sitting in place, it's resting here, we're just going to feel around the edges and start clicking things back into place. And that is securely on again. So now we just have to start replacing the fasteners. The first thing I'm gonna do is those two little pop clips, because these are nice and easy. You just have to slide them, or first actually, you need to pop them back out so that they look like this again. You wanna pop the little piece back up to the front. You'll see when you take them out, they look sort of like this. You need to just push this so that it comes out the top again. Once the clip is like that, slip it back into its spot. And then you just press on the top and it'll lock itself in place. And same procedure for the bottom. That's nice and easy. Next, we'll put the ashtray back in. We'll take our window switch, click this into place with the connector, and just tuck that wire nice and down in there. Actually, what you need to watch is that it needs to go underneath the ashtray. There's a little metal bracket here where the ashtray is going to seat in. You want the wire to be going outside of that towards the front, and then clip that into the switch. And just like when we pulled it out, this is just going to pop back into place, nice and secure. Screw back into place to hold the panel in. Once that's secured and it's nice and snug, make sure you take your retaining clip and pop that back in. Putting this door handle back in again, really easy. With this door handle, similar to before, you'll notice that there's a little hook. You want to open this and you want to get it hooked into there. You'll feel and know because it's going to be flush with the fabric on the front. And then you just have to pop the top back into place and you'll see it'll seat itself. Grab your Phillips head screwdriver again, take the small screw, and you're going to want to put that behind that little door. And that's about it. All you have to do is take the panel off, and if you just follow that order with the screws, it's really easy. In all honesty, you don't even have to go in that order. The only thing you have to do first is make sure you take out all the exterior clips before you start trying to pry off the door. If you try and pry off that panel before those are out, you could wind up breaking something and it's just not gonna work. So all in all, that's a pretty straightforward tutorial. It's the same procedure for the front doors and also for the other back door. The only things that are different is these little window switches that we talked about that pop out. The clips might be a little different for that. You might have to unplug a bigger connector, but it's really straightforward. Anyone can do this job, and if you need to do speakers on your truck, now you know how. So thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments that you want to add, please feel free, and I hope you come back for the next video.